In the Salt Lake City Central Mission, we don't really fly in to the mission, obviously. From the MTC in Provo, we just go and take a train up to Salt Lake City. And once I was there, I was picked up by my mission president and his wife and the assistants. And we went to the mission office. And from there, it was kind of a blur until I met my trainer. And my trainer is Sister Gonzalez from Chile. And she was so sweet. And I had no idea what I was doing. But I just remember walking around from the mission office, getting all my stuff ready. And then we had to go get my bike because I was a biking missionary. And I had no idea about things that I had to do with, bikes. And I just picked the first one I saw, and I went to the mission field. It was really fun. That first evening, we had a lesson with an investigator and a recent convert and a less active member. And it was just really great to be able to talk to people about the gospel for the first time. But because I was so excited to talk about the gospel, I also got really tongue twisted, I could say. And that's when my trainer helped me a lot because I had no idea what I was doing. Other than having fun the first day and getting my bike and getting really excited because I was teaching, I also started feeling homesick, which I had never felt before. But I prayed a lot, and my district really helped me get through that first week and a half was a little hard. I served in the Utah Salt Lake City Central Mission from October 2013 to April 2015, and the church in Salt Lake is very well known. There are church buildings literally on every corner. If you're lucky, you can even see the temple from some of your areas. And it's a little weird. Coming from Tennessee, I didn't have a church building closer to me. The closest church building I had was 20 minutes. And seeing 50 church buildings in a day and seeing a temple all in one day was really overwhelming. It was cool. It was just really different. Most of the people that we met on the streets were either agnostic or non-denominational Christians, and they had heard about the church, but they were either not interested or they just were really against the church and its teachings. So that was one of the difficulties and challenges we had serving in Salt Lake. Everyone knows who you are. The Salt Lake City Central Mission was not very big, and it had a few cities. It has a few cities right outside of Salt Lake. That's pretty much the whole boundaries of the mission. And I served in almost all of the little cities. And in Cottonwood Heights specifically, I was serving Spanish speaking, and we were biking, and our area was uphill, and it was very big to be on a bike, and it was predominantly English-speaking people, and so we had to really use our resources, like the area book, the members, and I remember Family Home Evening was a really big hit, and that's how we picked up a lot of our investigators, and that's how our teaching pool got bigger, was having Family Home Evenings with our members. Cottonwood Heights was one of the most successful areas I served in, and I think it's because we worked with the members a lot, and that really has a big thing to do with being successful. In Midvale, when I served there, I was also Spanish speaking, and there is a lot of Spanish speakers on the streets. They have taco stands everywhere, and everyone is Hispanic. You don't really see another race or culture there. So it was really easy to find people to talk to and share the gospel with. It was a little harder to keep them mostly because of the Spanish or Hispanic traditions and culture. But yet again, we relied on the members and to help us get through those obstacles. And the members were great, and they really helped us by sharing their testimonies and being there to pick up our investigators for church, or just offering them rides or offering them to come over for lunch. That's really big in Spanish culture. We're really like huggy, and we make everyone family. And I was so thankful for the Midvale ward because they did that. When I was serving in Murray, I was actually an English-speaking missionary, and most of the people we did talk to were English-speaking. We had a lot of success just talking to people on the streets. The bus stops was a big hit for us. And we also had a lot of resources like the area book. We had, I know seminary, we taught seminary in the Murray High School, and a lot of the seminary students just gave us a lot of referrals to their friends or to their less active friends. And that was it just blew up, and we were teaching left and right, and we were sending other missionaries referrals. And a lot of baptisms came from just going to the high school that is in Murray and asking for referrals in the seminary building. It's a great area, and plus we had wonderful ward mission leaders. Being a Spanish-speaking missionary in Salt Lake is very unique and very special because you have all these different types of countries and accents and food, and it all just mixes in together in one big bowl, which is your ward, and you have different people sharing different experiences, and it's really cool to see how the members come together and they help you teach your investigators who are from completely different countries sometimes, and sometimes they can't understand each other because of the accents that they have, but it's really great and it's awesome. Being a Spanish missionary, if you aren't native, I would suggest that you just ask the members ahead of time to talk to you only in Spanish. I had a few companions that were not native Spanish-speaking missionaries, and we asked the members several times to only talk to us in Spanish, and they did, and their Spanish really improved. And we saw that when we kind of spoke to members in Spanish or in English, or we talked in English to each other, their Spanish really kind of worsened. So that's a really big thing, is ask your members to talk to you in Spanish. Also, don't be afraid of, because you are not a native Spanish speaker, don't be afraid to talk to the people that you're teaching, or to ask for referrals in Spanish. Even though you might have an accent, or you might feel like no one understands you or no one wants to talk to you, trust me, they do. Because what I saw on several of my companions was when they spoke, even though they were fresh into the mission fields or they had accents in Spanish, everyone would listen, because what you say is so important to them, and they can tell, because even though you can't speak Spanish, you're trying, and they will listen to you if you just do it. The members will always be willing to help. Most of the time they want to help. You just have to ask them and kind of like guide them. In many of my areas, a lot of the members were converts, and many of them had been recent converts, maybe 5 years or less. And so they want to help, and they have all this energy to help. They just need a little direction on how to take things or what to say. That's when it's really important to work with your ward mission leader and ward council. It was really great. Most of the bishops were also converts, and they had served missions as young adults. So they had an idea of what the mission was like, and they were more than willing to help. If I could say, the Relief Society, in every area I served in, the Relief Society president was always on board. They are like the backbone sometimes of missionary work in the ward, because they have resources. They know most of the sisters in the ward. They know the primary president. They're friends with everyone, and so they can really get you referrals. Really, they can just really, really help you and your investigators and your recent converts. So definitely stick with the ward. I think finding in the Spanish area, because we are in the States still, and there are a lot of English speakers, and they're just there. So tracting is a little different when you're in the Spanish assignment than it is when you're in the English assignment, because you don't really know what language people are going to be speaking when you knock on that door. So what we would do to find new investigators, let's say through tracting, we would knock on a door, and if that person didn't speak Spanish, we would just ask them if they knew any Spanish people that lived near them, or if they could maybe point us out to a predominantly Spanish neighborhood. What I always like to do is knock on the door, and if they weren't Spanish speaking, you'd ask if you can serve, because everyone likes service. So you ask them if they can serve, and then if you can serve them, and then you ask them, do you have any Spanish neighbors, or could you direct us to some Spanish speaking neighborhoods, and then leave your number behind on a little pass-along card. And it's surprising how much service can help, because if you help them take their trash out, or take their dog out to the bathroom, or something so simple, and then leave your number behind, they will call you. Sometimes I've gotten random text messages at 1 a.m. from people I don't remember, and they were just like, hey, you were at my door the other day, here's a Spanish neighbor that I saw, and boom, there you go, you have a referral, or you have a potential investigator. So definitely do that. So I was actually blessed to have 2 Christmases on the mission. The first Christmas I ever spent in the mission field, I was pretty new. I had been out for about 2 months when the time Christmas came around, and it was very special because around Christmas time, everyone kind of opens their heart and softens their hearts and really wants to listen to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it was lovely because even though some people weren't interested in the gospel, most everyone listened, and they took the time to maybe say a prayer with us on the street, or to take a pass-along card with the testimony of, a member that was in our ward. It was really sacred, and they really, really appreciated the message of Jesus Christ around the Christmas time. It was really special because we also, as missionaries, you get to talk to your family, and you get to see them and talk to them. I know in the missionary handbook it suggests to only speak with your family for about 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and before my Christmas call on the mission, I was really confused by that because 45 minutes does not seem long enough, and I thought it was a little unfair or selfish for the handbook to say that. But after my Christmas call, that first Christmas on my mission, I was so thankful that it was only 45 minutes, because if you're like me and you've only been in the mission field 2 months before you get to Skype your family, you kind of get homesick, and it gets a little hard to focus back on the mission and focus on your area and on your investigators. So definitely follow the handbook on Christmas guidelines. You'll have a great time because it's not every day or every Christmas that you get to spend on the mission field serving the Lord and get to celebrate all these wonderful like stories, or read about, the birth of Christ or the atonement. Definitely use the atonement during Christmas. A lot of people really like hearing that Christ was born to help us get through our sins and our afflictions, and it's really special. I always grew up hearing other members of my ward talk about their wonderful mission experiences and how great it was and how like spiritual and how many, like they baptized a family of 10 and it was just always successful. So when I came to my mission, I was just expecting it to be super easy and just baptisms coming to me, mostly because I was serving in Salt Lake, and I just thought everyone that was here wanted to be Mormon, and that wasn't how it is or how it was. So it was a real challenge to not have success or to have people yell at you or people cuss at you. It was hard, and I remember when I was fresh into the mission field, I used to come home crying because people were so mean, and I just couldn't possibly imagine how people would say that the mission was the best time of their lives. I was like, are you kidding me? People are throwing soda cans at me, they're slamming doors, this is not the best. But one day in personal study, I was reading about Lehi and how he was going through a really hard time because he was getting things thrown at him. He was getting rocks thrown at him, and people were calling him a weird old man. And he was asked to leave his house and everything that he had, and he obeyed, and he was blessed. And when I read that, I just sat there and I knew that I just had to be patient and that I had to love every single person that slammed the door in my face or that didn't want to talk to me. And it came to the point that I did. There was a particular older woman that always would yell at us as we biked by her street. She would always yell at us, and then my trainer would be like, wow, she is such a good lady. She's really nice if you get to know her. And I was like, I don't want to get to know her. But later on that same week, as I was reading my Book of Mormon, that same week, she gave us Halloween candy. And she gave us like a hug and still didn't want to listen. But she was very, very nice. And she said that she appreciated what we did as missionaries of our church. And she appreciated and admired the devotion that we had to the gospel. And that right there was another sign that even though things are hard, Heavenly Father has a plan, and He will help you and He will bless you if you are willing to listen to Him. One of the most sacred experiences that happened to me on my mission was in my first area, and I was with my trainer, Sister Gonzalez, and we were tracting in the snow. It was so cold. And we were tracting, and we kept on getting this particular house confused with a potential investigator's house. And the first time we ever knocked on that door, she yelled at us, and she wanted nothing to do with us. And we apologized for disturbing her, and we just kept tracting and knocking on other doors. And then a few days later, we got her house confused again. And we knocked on her house again, and she was mad again. And same thing, she yelled at us. She yelled at us for disturbing her peace. And so we said sorry, and we kept on going. And this happened about 3, 4, 5 times more. And we kept on knocking on her door, and I felt so bad. And she kept on yelling at us every single time. I don't know why we didn't write her address down. But she was not interested in the gospel at all. And about a month and a half went by, and we were at church, and we were just saying goodbye to the members after sacrament meeting, and we were just standing there in the entrance to the chapel, And all of a sudden I see someone out of the corner of my eye looking at me, and I turn around and I say hello, and I go back to what I was doing. And this woman just comes up to me and she says, you know, you're always at my house and you've always knocked on my door, and I've hated every time you knock on my door, but I was praying and I had a feeling that I really had to listen to you girls, and you stopped coming by my house, so I decided to come here because I'm pretty sure I would find you at church on Sunday. And when she said that, I was so blown away, and I couldn't speak because I remember her. She yelled at me multiple times, so I really do remember her face. And before I could say anything, she was like, you know, I want to learn more about your church. I think it's a sign from God, and if I get an answer that these things are correct, I want to get baptized. Will you please teach me? And I just stood there and I was numb because I was so excited. And we did teach her. We went to her house that very evening, and we taught her and her 2 boys and her little girl. And within a month, she and her 2 little boys, or her 2 teenage boys, were baptized. And it was just, oh, it's a fantastic story for me, because I know that my prayers are answered, and that I have to be willing to follow the Spirit and willing to keep trying. I still kind of regret not ever going back to her house, maybe for like the 4th time, because she did say she was waiting for us at her house, and that we stopped coming by. But never give up is what I learned from that story, is to be persistent and to never judge a book by its cover, as cheesy as that might sound. But you never know when the Lord will soften people's hearts. As soon as we started teaching this sister, I could just feel that Heavenly Father was so happy that we were finally in her house teaching her and her children. It's just great. Just never give up, and be nice. Be nice to everyone that slams the door to you or that doesn't want to talk to you, because you never know if they'll come up to you in church and ask to be baptized. When I opened my mission call and it said Utah Salt Lake City Central Mission, my mom was so excited, because she was 100% sure that I would be completely safe and that nothing would happen to me. So she was pretty excited, and I was pretty excited as well, because I really believed that Salt Lake was like completely safe and quiet. And surprisingly, it wasn't as quiet or safe as I was expecting it to be. If you were like me, I went to the mission when I was 19, and my companion was pretty young as well. Most of my companions were 19 or 20. So you look really young, and that you are attracting in unknown neighborhoods, and you're talking to people that you don't know, and it can get a little dangerous or a little scary at times. I've had people in Salt Lake, I had people in Salt Lake follow me to my apartment with my companion, or call us and just leave random messages. So I think something that I would advise you to do to be safe is to just use the Spirit and follow the Spirit and its promptings. Always have your ward mission leader's number, or a member's number, because you never know when you might need a priesthood holder there to maybe, they can't give you rides because you're a sister, but maybe they can like walk you home, or they have other contacts in the ward where maybe your ward mission leader can call another sister in the ward and they can give you a ride back to your apartment, so you avoid those unsafe moments or interactions. Another thing is try to schedule your lessons with members. If you're a sister missionary, you can't enter the home of a single man, or vice versa. If you're an elder, you can't enter the home of a single woman or a house where there are just women there. So if you schedule your lessons with members, maybe like a couple or I don't know, siblings in the ward, just always like a man and a woman, like a man that holds the priesthood and a sister in the ward. It's easier for you to be safer, and that also helps because you are able to ask the members to bear their testimony, so it's kind of a win-win situation. But yet again, always follow the promptings of the Spirit, and when the Spirit says something, you definitely want to do that and what the Spirit says for you to do. Preparing to serve on my mission was a blessing in itself. I had wonderful sister missionaries in my ward. I had a great father that would read, preach my gospel with me every night and would share really powerful insights of his conversion story and what helped him as a non-member to understand the gospel. If I could do it all over again, I think I would go and teach more with the sister missionaries in my ward and maybe host more family home evenings or lessons in my house. And because sometimes investigators do ask weird questions or unexpected questions. They're not weird, they're just really unexpected. And I would have loved to see how other missionaries dealt with those sticky situations. I think I would have that would have really helped me. I always before my mission, I would read my scriptures every night, and my mom and dad would sit down and we would talk about like little spiritual experiences that, again, they had as investigators. We also went to the temple together. And in my stake back in Johnson City, Tennessee, we didn't really have mission prep at that time. So you were kind of on like your own to study and prepare for your mission. And my bishop was really, really helpful. He was there in almost all my temple prep classes, and he would check up on me every Sunday to make sure that all the questions I had about serving mission were answered. If you live in a stake or an area that doesn't have missionary classes, missionary prep classes, definitely ask your missionaries that are serving in your ward and ask other returned missionaries that are in your ward to maybe give you advice or tips on how to find, how to teach. And I would even go tracting with the missionaries. That was my favorite thing to do before my mission, was just knocking on random doors with the sisters. And it helped me a lot because I did a lot of tracting on my mission.